Subscribe to The Honest Critique for current affairs, movie, book, and product reviews. Also, make sure you press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video. The views, information, or opinions expressed during the video series are solely those of the individuals and do not necessarily represent those of The Honest Critique and its employees. The following video contains strong language which may be offensive to some viewers. Viewer discretion advised.
Greetings and a very warm welcome. It's a pleasure to have Professor Eytan Gilboa, an expert on U.S Israel relations and a senior fellow at the Jerusalem Institute for Strategy and Security.
I'm happy to be here.
Before we delve into the President Biden's visit, Professor, let's review the recent visits of the U.S. Secretary of State and Secretary of Defense that occurred last week. Could you provide an overview of this high-profile visits recently?
The United States, from the beginning of the Hamas and Jihad's atrocities against Israeli civilians about 12 days ago, has fully supported Israel, severely criticized Hamas, and also agreed with Israel's decision to go to war against Hamas and Jihad with the aim of eliminating them from Gaza. After so many years of rounds of warfare and launching of missiles and rockets almost every year or so, Israel got fed up, especially after these atrocities. So the United States has supplied Israel with sophisticated new pieces of weapons and deliveries, and also warned Iran and Hezbollah. Hezbollah is in Lebanon on the Israeli northern border to stay out of the war. There was a fear in the United States that the war could be expanded to the north and become a regional war. This is why President Biden moved two American aircraft carriers. One is the most advanced in the American Navy, Ford. It is now stationed just close to Lebanon, and the other one is traveling to the Persian Gulf. He also put on alert and sent to the Middle East about 2,000 Marines. And he told several times, including during his visit today in Israel, he said, don't think of intervening and expanding the war. And the meaning of all of that is that if deterrence failed and Iran and Hezbollah decided to attack Israel, they would meet American force intervention to prevent them from participating in the war. But Israel can handle wars both in the south against Islamic Jihad and Hamas, as well as in the north. But right now, it is more beneficial for Israel to concentrate and focus on the south, on Gaza, and another front in the north could just interfere in that effort. And this is why both the United States and Israel would like to prevent another front erupting soon.
So President Biden recently addressed the issue of the humanitarian aid to Gaza and emphasized the importance of inspections. Could you provide a concise summary for our audience, especially amidst the discussion of a veto at the UNSC?
Both the United States and Israel agree on the goal. The goal of the present campaign is to destroy, eliminate the rule of those Nazi-like extreme Islamic terrorist organizations from Gaza. There are some differences about the means to accomplish this goal. And the United States is very much concerned about humanitarian issues Israel is also concerned about humanitarian issues, but Hamas, Islamic Jihad, are holding 200 Israelis. They kidnapped them, they abducted them, and they are holding them hostages. And therefore, Israel says humanitarian considerations, fine. It has to be reciprocal. The famous American slogan is "No free lunch," and therefore, if Hamas and Islamic Jihad would like to receive food, medicine, and gasoline, they have to reciprocate. Right now, both the United States and Israel agreed on very limited Egyptian supply through the southern border between Gaza and Egypt to a very limited place in southern Gaza for civilians. And both have warned Hamas that if it will capture or take over those emergency supplies, they will stop.
President Biden also expressed concerns about the extended occupation of the Gaza Strip. Given that Prime Minister Netanyahu hasn't presented a concrete plan for Gaza to the press, how do you view the current situation?
Yes, the United States and Israel discussed today the plan for the war, and it will take some time. It could take weeks or even months before Hamas and Islamic Jihad could be completely dismantled. They talked today about the future. What would happen? What could happen? What is the best solution for Gaza after the end of the war? In that sense, there was a tragedy yesterday evening when a missile misfired by Islamic Jihad fell on a hospital, killed hundreds of people. Hamas, whose information is very similar to the one that comes out of the Kremlin, which means it all lies, fabrications. They blamed Israel. Turns out this was not the case. Israel produced conclusive evidence that it was a misfired Islamic Jihad missile that caused the deaths of hundreds of Palestinians. They don't care about civilians. They don't care about their own people, and they are lying all the time. So I suggest that the media anywhere should investigate very carefully what they say, because they use to disseminate all kinds of lies. And why I am saying all of that? Because one of the immediate results of that incident was the cancellation of a summit meeting which was scheduled to take place in Jordan between President Biden and the President of Egypt, Sisi, King of Jordan, Abdullah, and Mahmoud Abbas, the head of the Palestinian Authority. And the purpose of that meeting was precisely to plan the future of another less violent and more peaceful government in Gaza. This is what the Palestinians deserve, not the kind of authoritarian, terrorist kind of government they have had experience in the last since 2006, 2007. But because of that terrible tragedy in Gaza the other night, Jordan decided to cancel the meeting, and therefore this opportunity was missed. But I am sure that both the United States and Israel and some other Arab countries, including the three countries I've mentioned, Egypt, Jordan, and the Palestinian Authority, as well as Saudi Arabia, will participate in finding an Arab solution for Gaza, because Israel will go into Gaza to flesh out Hamas and Jihad, but has no interest whatsoever to occupy Gaza or to stay there for a long period of time. After the war, the sides, in cooperation with the United States and other Arab countries, will have to find an alternative government to run the place.
In the aftermath of the recent hospital blast in Gaza, President Biden was very careful in attributing the responsibility, and he should rather chose to use the word other team instead of naming the Palestinian Islamic Jihad. What are your thoughts on this cautious approach?
I don't know, but yeah, it's very strange because obvious if it's not Israel, it must be either Hamas or Islamic Jihad. But we knew from the beginning that it was the Islamic Jihad misfiring. I have to inform your audience that Israel, the Israeli army, has already identified 450 misfired rockets and missiles that were launched against Israel but fell inside Gaza. And those Palestinian Islamic Jihad and Hamas's rockets killed Palestinians inside Gaza. As I said earlier, they couldn't care less about it. And we know from earlier rounds of violence that this happens all the time. The Islamic Jihad is not maintaining rockets and missiles properly, and therefore many of those which it launches are misfired and fell inside Gaza, killing people. I have no idea why Biden decided to say the other side, but obviously he meant the Islamic Jihad or Hamas.
Looking ahead as the war persists, what specific assistance is Israel seeking from U.S.?
So in terms of supplies, so far the United States delivered, it sent no less than 26 cargo planes that landed here in the last few days. Israel is receiving weapon systems that she did not have in the past. And I imagine that the United States will continue. This is what the president said today, to supply all the military means Israel needs in order to achieve the common goal of dismantling Hamas and Islamic Jihad. It is also important it's also important to note that President Biden said he would go to Congress to secure a huge amount of aid. They are talking about 10 to about $13 billion of special aid designated for this warfare, for this war, and beyond that, the United States provides Israel with political support. You have all kinds of lunatic members of the Security Council proposing all kinds of very strange resolutions. Like Russia did not mention at all the atrocities committed by Hamas and Islamic Jihad as the reason for the war. They want the war to stop. So this was obviously brought down. There was another resolution today at the UN Security Council, one of the most politicized and rotten agencies of the United Nations, arguing for some kind of equal attention to both Israel and the Palestinians. This was also brought down by an American veto. So the United States is supporting Israel militarily, economically, and politically. There's also an alliance that the United States has been able to promote of liberal democracies, including the main powers of Europe, Britain, Italy, France, and Germany. They've issued a joint statement. They are cooperating. President of France is scheduled to come here. Also, the Prime Minister of Britain, he cited today that saying I mentioned earlier that information coming from Hamas is equal to the one that the Kremlin disseminated. And the issue is not just Israel and Hamas and Gaza. The issue is much broader. The United States and Israel view the present war as a confrontation between the Western liberal world and the axis of evil that includes Iran, Russia, and China, that is also cooperating in fighting the West in Ukraine, and therefore it should be a joint effort, an international joint effort. President Biden also said that Hamas and Jihad proved to be like ISIS, and if this is the case, then the means to be used against them should be similar or equal to the military means used against ISIS, and the goal is identical, to eliminate them the same way ISIS was eliminated from controlling large territories in Syria and Iraq. So if you put everything together, you see here a very strong American determination to support Israel as a close ally, to show all allies of the United States that the United States stands by its commitments, as if the United States and Israel has a defense agreement of a kind. And so the messages that President Biden brought with him to the visit today in Israel are to the entire Middle East and maybe even to the world. So the issue goes much beyond that, the limited kind of military operation that is being conducted in Gaza.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken's visit highlighted his personal connection to the Holocaust and his Jewish identity. Unlike other historical instances, such as probably Henry Kissinger, who didn't publicly acknowledge his Jewish identity, how do you interpret this overt support for Israel?
But, first of all, Biden today in his speech and in his statements, he mentioned the Jewish Holocaust. He said that during the Second World War, the United States did not save the Jews of Europe who were exterminated by Nazi Germany. And he said that this is not going to happen again. He said, from now on, we are going to protect Israel against the enemies that want to inflict on it the final solution of the kind that Nazi Germany carried against the Jews of Europe. So you mentioned Kissinger. His family ran away from Nazi Germany to the United States. So during the atrocities, the Palestinian atrocities about 12 days ago, many Israelis in those towns and villages, at least in the first hours of the attack, felt as if they were in the Holocaust, because about 2,000 fighters, terrorists, came into their towns and villages, and they killed everybody they saw, infants, children, old people, young people, old families. Many families were completely exterminated. This is like a Holocaust. This was the most tragic event, the most disastrous event happened to Jews since the Holocaust. So there is a clear connection here between the Holocaust, and this is what many Israelis feel. This is what the extremists, the terrorists, as well as Iran, Hezbollah, they want to eliminate the Jews. And if given the opportunity, they would do it the same way. And the solution is to have a very strong military in cooperation with a superpower like the United States to ever prevent that from happening again.
Thank you for taking your time and speaking to us. It's been a pleasure to host you for this insightful interview.
Thank you for the questions. I think very good questions.